Everyone's a critic when something goes wrong. It's a pity that the critics sometimes don't know what they're talking about. Hi, this is Phil Gurski, President and CEO of Borealis Threat and Risk Consulting in Russell, Ontario, Canada, and you're listening to Quick Hits. I'm pretty sure that you all remember, or have at least read something about, a brutal act of terrorism that took place in France back in October, on October the 18th, when a school teacher named Samuel Paty, who had dared to show, or talk about rather, the infamous Muhammad caricatures that date back well over a decade to his students, was attacked and, incredibly so, beheaded by a young man who had actually paid people to help identify the teacher. He himself was not actually a student at the school. He was born in Chechnya, and he, in fact, was shot dead by police after he killed and beheaded Samuel Paty. Well, apparently, there's a report that's just come out in France. It's called the Inspector's Report. And this is an article from The Guardian from apparently an award-winning foreign correspondent called Kim Wilshire, based in Paris. And she writes, French security services failed to appreciate the gravity of the defamatory campaign on social media against teacher Samuel Paty before his murder. It says intelligence officials underestimated the risk. Well, I think you know where I'm going with this. If you listen enough of my podcast, I don't know who these inspectors are. I don't know what background they have in intelligence. I'm guessing none. Apparently, inspectors noted that the alert to the presence of posts or videos on social networks was given by parents or by a teacher, and goes ahead and praises the school itself, but is very critical of French intelligence services for, I guess, not preventing Mr. Paty's murder. Where have we heard this before? As I've said to you on many occasions in the past, when you work in security intelligence and law enforcement, you can't win. When you get things right, you're criticized for being overbearing, you're criticized for overstepping your bounds, you're criticized for making a mountain out of a molehill, and when you don't stop things from happening, you're blamed for not doing that either. So you're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't. Well, I don't know who Kim Wilshire is. It says on this website that she's an award-winning foreign correspondent. I'm sure she's very good at her job. But I can tell you, at least based on what I know, I don't think she has much for background in security intelligence or law enforcement. Because given what I know about the situation in France, and I'm not a French citizen, I don't live in France, but I used to talk to the French security services on a fairly regular basis. I do follow the public safety issue in France fairly closely. I know that the French security services, the DST, have on their radar somewhere in the neighborhood of 18,000 people who have pledged some kind of an allegiance or interest to Islamist extremist ideology. 18,000 people. I don't know what the French have to go through in terms of getting a warrant to intercept communications. I don't know how many resources they devote to sitting on the internet, sitting on Facebook, sitting on Twitter, sitting on pick an app, pick a platform to see what's going on out there. I don't know what kind of role artificial intelligence plays in trolling through this stuff to try to see what matters and what doesn't. But I do know, and again, I apologize for being very repetitive in some of these podcasts, I do know that security services are swamped. They're monitoring far too many people. Why? Because they have to. Lots of people say all kinds of stupid shit online, and it is the mandate, the responsibility, and I would argue the moral obligation for these security services, including law enforcement, to figure out who's who in the zoo, to try to see who's serious, and to be able to pick up on who goes from talking the talk to walking the walk, i.e. who is translating their hateful, venomous comments that they post online into some sort of action. But I also know, based on my own experience in security intelligence over 3 decades, that the vast majority of people who do make these posts online are wankers. They're either incapable or incompetent or cowards at heart who hide behind this big man on campus online. They post all kinds of stuff that certainly sounds serious and it sounds worrisome, and it certainly points to all this attack planning going on, or at least the spread of hate and the targeting of individuals. But the vast majority couldn't organize a piss up in a bar. So, inspector's report. What do you think the French security services should have done? First of all, was it brought to their attention? I don't know. Do you know? And what other high priority investigations were going on at the time that the DST and the various French police forces had to deal with? What kind of priority should this have been given? Now, in hindsight, guess what? I heard this from my grandmother. Hindsight's 2020. In hindsight, of course they should have listened or paid more attention to the rhetoric that was being posted about Samuel Paty being a kafir, an infidel. How dare he post pictures of or caricatures and insulting cartoons of the Prophet Muhammad that basically sealed his fate. He should be killed for doing that. How many people posted that stuff online? 1? 10? 20? 100? 2,000? Based on the reaction that I saw after his assassination, he sure pissed off a lot of people around the world. And I'm guessing that in the time frame between his posting the caricatures, when people started noticing this stuff and getting angry about it, I'm going to go on a limb and say there were thousands, if not tens of thousands of people that were posting stupid shit online, calling for his death, calling him to be killed for daring to insult the Prophet Muhammad. And you're going to tell me the French security services have the resources to monitor all those accounts and all those posts? Well, if you think that, A, you're ignorant. B, you're living in your world that unicorns and rainbows must dominate all the time because they sure don't mind. I think that the killing of Samuel Paty was an incredible tragedy, but the fault does not lie with the French security services. The fault lies with the young Chechen man who killed him and beheaded him. The fault lies with the people in the environment who were calling for his death, i.e. parents, maybe some students, hangers-on, people who wanted to vent their rage online about what they perceive to be this grand insult against Islam. They're the ones that should be taken to task, not the French security services. They're doing the best job they can with the resources that they can. Are mistakes made? Damn right they're made. Because they're human. And mistakes are always made. And I'm getting a little bit sick and tired, I'm sure you can hear it in my voice, of this constant finger pointing when something goes boom and everyone points the finger at the law enforcement and security for not stopping it from happening. I think you should cut them some slack. And if you're that concerned about it, if you really think they're fucking up in a major and not doing their job, why don't you consider joining them? Becoming an intelligence officer, becoming a police officer. If you have all the answers in the universe, maybe you should become part of it. Grant them your wisdom, your insight, your incredible intelligence about what should be done and how it can be done better. So instead of carping from the sidelines about things you know nothing about, maybe you should, walk a few kilometers in the footsteps of those who actually do this for a living. Do a ride along with a police officer over a shift, and then see if you support defund the police. See what they are faced with every day. I've talked to a lot of law enforcement officers over my time, and they make mistakes, and there are probably a few bad apples in the bunch. But if you had any idea how many calls police officers take on a given day, week, month, whatever, that are resolved to the best degree possible, and no one gets hurt and no one dies, and you point the finger when 1 out of a billion goes wrong, you strike me as a hypocrite. Sorry, that's just the way I think. Anyhow, I'm sure you want to weigh on this. You can reach me on Gmail, borealisrisk@gmail.com, or on Twitter @BorealisSaves. You can also find me on LinkedIn and on Facebook. If you like this content, want to hear more, go to my website, borealisthreatandrisk.com, hit the subscribe button, provide your email address, you'll get a free daily digest, all the podcasts, all the blogs, free of charge to your inbox, first thing every morning. I'd love to hear from you. I'm sure I'm going to hear from you on this one. Let me know what you think. Am I completely out to lunch? Am I being overly sensitive? Or maybe do I have a point? Love to hear from you. I'll talk to you again soon. Until then, stay safe.